All right. How's everybody doing today, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? We are here with another great episode today on the Unapologetic Entrepreneur, and I got a special guest today. See, all the time, I always try to bring you something really good. And I was inspired to do this not only by economical times, but I was blessed to actually hear this man come and talk and teach us about something that, I like to call the enemy. We talk on this show about entrepreneurship and taking risk and moving out. And, you know, I want to make sure that we cover all aspects. We talk about how can we start our own business. We talk about raising capital. We talk about credit. We've talked about many different things. But what I realized just when I was in this workshop that we don't talk about debt, as I like to call it, the enemy, debt. So today's episode, I am blessed to have a guest, and we're going to talk about debt. Debt is the enemy, all right? And I got my man right here. I'm not going to butcher his last name, but I am going to call him Armand, and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you guys so he could tell you exactly what he is, who he is, and how he stands in that field. And again, he's not aware of our platform. Just so you guys know, you can feel free to say hi, of course. You always say hi, but not only that, feel free to ask any questions debt related or entrepreneurship. This man runs a business, ladies and gentlemen. He runs a business on debt. Like, what an opportunity. Look at this. So without further ado, Mr. Armand, can you please introduce yourself to the people? We have some people here just saying hi. Go ahead.
Appreciate you having me, Leonardo, and I am excited to have this conversation. Armin Tatians, I am with Mediator Debt Solutions, Director of Business Development, and I've been in this field roughly about 15 years now and have a unique opportunity to work with entrepreneurs like yourself and help a lot of people get out of debt. All time probably scratched $1 billion, somewhere in that neighborhood at this point. But I've been saying that for a while now, so it's probably a little more than that. Yeah, just glad to be here, and I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
Oh man, it's funny. I always say when I have a guest here, I never get through all my questions, but we got some good questions. And we got people that do credit. We got people that do all over. There's people that watch it. They're going to be watching that actually do like credit repair and stuff like that. So I'm sure that you're going to be able to tie in the knots for those kind of people as well, because they all play. I'm sure they play hand in hand. I got some people here. I see Shadira saying, "What's going on, the boss lady?" All right, we got boss lady here. Let's see who else we got here. Who else should I be shouting out? Okay, she's the only one that said hi. Remember, you got to say, oh, we got Takira Sullivan TT saying hello from out there. Okay.
Hello.
All right. So we're going to start it off. And remember, you guys can always chime in the conversation as they start to climb up. But I got the first one. The first question for you right here, Armand. People got this whole misconception. We don't even know what debt is. I mean, we had a workshop where Shadir was actually there and talking about it on breaking up all different types of debt. And I mean, when I first got into this industry, one of the things that I found hard to believe is what the heck is good debt? But that's not the question right now on the floor. This is my question. Most people think of debt as an unavoidable trap. There's nothing they could do. They're gonna end up in debt, right? From your perspective, what is the biggest misconception families have about debt?
So it feels like a two-part question to me, right?
Hmm.
Is it an unavoidable trap? Yes and no, right? So what we what we tend to do as consumers is we tend to spend money. And because of how simple it is to spend money on credit, we've gotten used to it, right? The challenge is that as interest rates go up, carrying that debt becomes more expensive. And sometimes we forget that the credit card company's job or that loan company's job is not to relieve stress for you. It's to get you to the sweet spot where you're in debt, and they keep you in debt, right? So like they're not trying to help you out. They're not your friend. Now we look at it, that's the misconception. We think it's an ally, but really it's an enemy. Why? Because their goal is not for you to use and pay it off at the end of the month. Their goal is for you to live beyond your means, spend a little more than you can conveniently pay back on time. Repeat that, rinse and repeat until they get you to where you can't pay it off anymore. And now they're charging you that compound interest. So
Mm.
unavoidable. I mean, you got to be extremely disciplined. And unfortunately, I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn. I don't know if you could tell, but he said if they would have taught, Money 101 and Money 102 in high school, I would have taken both classes. So we just don't teach the basics anymore. Uh, so is it avoidable? Yes, but we're so comfortable spending and using it. By the time we realize we're in over our head, a lot of times it's too late.
So people just overdo it, and I mean, it's not something that's passed down by generation to generation. I must say, I didn't. My mom wasn't one of those people that had credit cards, so it's not like everything was cash. Either you have it, and then when she discovered credit cards, it comes off as like free money, and it's not free. It's costing you a lot more. So that's a big deal. I mean, we are big spenders. I think that's one of the things that you said, and I want to really talk about that for a minute. You said at the workshop, that one of the best times we had economically was during COVID, right? And then right after COVID, everything went back up. And what you noticed, like they hit me hard. It hit me like you punched me in my stomach through the screen. I don't even know what state you were at, but I felt like you were right next door. You said, I realized that America, we are big spenders. Like that's, I mean, the change. Talk about that a little, because that really interested me when you said that. It was like I knew that, but hearing it from somebody that really studies debt, um, like the opposite or the brother of credit, it really hit me hard. Like everything just rattled my head when you said that, and I just almost went down the rabbit hole, if you would, on debt to understand this. So please talk about that a little bit.
So something interesting happened during COVID, right? And I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert when it comes to quantitative easing, but that was not the first time that we've implemented that. The first time was back in 2008, 2009. And that's a way that they stimulate the economy, right? And they make borrowing extremely easy, and they make spending money extremely easy. And then, people spend money on goods and services, and things kind of pick up. So what they did is they reworked that, and they did the same thing during COVID. They said, well, we have no idea what's going to happen. We're in uncharted territory. We don't, like, even us, we didn't know if people were going to continue to talk to us on the phone about resolving their debt, right? We're talking about the end of the world, and we got a quarantine, and we got all this stuff going on. So like there's a lot of uncertainty. I remember getting phone calls from our executives saying, hey, how do you feel about your team working from home? And I was like, what do you mean? Why? Right? We like the office. So I remember that, and it happened very quickly. We went from talking about it to suggesting to then we had to pivot and make adjustments. And a lot of people, bottom line is there was a lot of fear and uncertainty in the marketplace. And they said, okay, great. So we're going to print a bunch of money, and we're going to, stimulate and jumpstart the economy so that way everything doesn't just crumble and fall apart. So for us, first month went by and we were like, okay, interesting. People are still interested in doing something about their debt, right? Because we're like, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if people are getting laid off and their offices are closing? What if they can't work remotely? What if they're not set up? If they're not a big corporation, right? The small businesses now are going to start closing doors, and sure, there's going to be unemployment, but that's a significant reduction in income, right? So all these variables that are happening, um, and sure enough, people still signed up. And then we're like, okay, great. So a bunch of people now signed up for this debt relief service, but are they going to make their payment? And sure enough, people made their payments, right? So what we started to discover just going through the motions, is that people had a lot of money on hand, and we couldn't go out and spend it. So getting out of debt was actually a great idea. Working on your credit was a great idea. Like, so we saw our national credit card debt take a dive, and we haven't seen that in a long time. In from 2020 to 2021, we paid down a few $100 billion in credit card debt, and then simultaneously we were holding on to a bunch of cash, like us, you and I, consumers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, you know, you could reinterpret data in more than one way. And for me, the story that those charts show is that we were able to save some money and we were able to pay down some debt as a nation. But we, like, think about it, under what circumstances? We were told we can't go out, lockdowns, you got to wait in line to go to the grocery store. We couldn't go out to the movies. We couldn't travel. So if you think about it, you're like, okay, well, it's not such a terrible thing, like those circumstances. But, big but, the moment the lockdowns were lifted, we spent the credit and we spent the money, the savings. So like it was gone. And by the way, obviously we hear a lot of ultra successful people, entrepreneurs that said, no, 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 that was the opportunity time. And bigger companies even got wealthier, right? People made a lot of wealth during that period, but it wasn't the average consumer, right? And that's the challenge. And then after we printed what, $6 trillion, what ended up happening? Well, now we got into price of goods going up, supply and demand. Prices for cars, used cars, remember,
Yeah.
skyrocketed. I mean,
Everything went up.
everything became more expensive, right? Now we're dealing with inflation. We're dealing with, the dollar, like the whole thing went upside down. And, I'm sticking to the story that we're professional spenders and we need help. We need help if we're
And
going to
that
be better
we're
off
so
financially.
thankful. We're so thankful there's people like you that are helping people because there's only so many alternatives they have. Hey, what's going on, Mark? What's going on? Mr. Terulio is on the scene. He came on as well. I got another question to go to you for. And guys, feel free. You're part of the conversation, okay? Um, when does debt cross the line from being a manageable tool, to becoming a dangerous burden?
A manageable tool. So I'll give you an example. You hear people say things like, yeah, but my Chase credit card, my Freedom Chase card, I got my points, right? Or my American Express, I got my points. That's wonderful. And if you want to play the points game and use it as a tool, no problem. When I travel and when I go to Europe, I don't bring my debit card because my bank account doesn't give me the guarantees that American Express gives me. If I lose my card or it's stolen or somebody racks up a fraudulent charge, American Express is a little safer that way, right? So I'm not going to carry on my business debit card in a different country. And I'm just giving you an extreme example. So use it as a tool for security, fine. Don't carry your debit cards, carry your credit card. But you got to make sure you pay it back within 30 to 40 days. So if you're not paying it back in 30 and not using it like a charge card, whatever the point story you're telling yourself to justify, it don't work. It's not worth the money. The amount of money you'll pay in interest, like Like, think about it this way. This cup of coffee is on sale right now. And you're like, man, but it's on sale. I want to take advantage of it. So you buy it now with a credit card because you think it's on sale and you're taking advantage. You're winning. Okay. But this cup of coffee is going to cost you 100 times more because you're not going to pay it off at the end of the month. And that's the mentality that we have. We tell ourselves this story, and quite frankly, we slowly bleed out all of our credit. We slowly bleed out all of our savings. I've seen extreme situations where somebody depleted all of their retirement money because they were stubborn and they thought they were going to do it on their own. And when they ran out of all savings, all retirement, then they came to us and got some professional help. Like, why?
Ooh.
Why not just rip the Band-Aid off, make a tough decision, right? Like, it's not supposed to be easy, but man, wait until your back is against the wall and you blew all of your life savings and now you're jeopardizing maybe even your home, your biggest asset. To me, I can't get behind that. That's just irresponsible.
You said something important. Then they come to us. I know you introduced yourself in the company in which you represent or are part of or own. I'm not even sure. What is it that you do? Can you give us like a simple 1, 2, 3? This is how we do. This is what we do. I don't need the details. That's your magic sauce, man. Don't give us the Big Mac sauce. Just tell us, what is it that you do?
So it's very simple. I'm in the debt resolution space. We help clients get out of debt for less money than what they owe in a shorter amount of time. Now, the caveat is we work with unsecured debt only. Right. So if you came to me and you said, hey, look, I got these 2 car payments. I got $1,000 BMW payment. I got a, $680 Lexus payment. We don't help with secured debt. That would be considered secured. We work with unsecured debt, credit cards, personal loans, lines of credits, private student loans, medical bills and collections, things like that.
Okay. And you reduce them. Is this so this is an alternative to bankruptcy, debt consolidation, I guess. I don't know. Is it in the same wheelhouse? Is it like what's the difference between that and something like debt consolidation? Because I don't even know. It sounds like the same. Debt consolidation rep. They say, oh, we're gonna cut your payments in half, but you made it sound like this is a different category. Like there's a safer bet.
Yeah, so there's definitely a few options out there for people to deal with their debt. And the one thing that you'll hear me say from a lot of the content that I do make online independently is I know that our service is not for everybody. So we can just get that out of the way, right? So like I don't have to convince a single person why they have to get into our type of a program. All we try to do is just inform them of their options. That's literally my approach 10 out of 10 times. Why? Because the reality is that my service might not be a good fit for you. That's the reality. It might not be. It might be your best bet. And all that, like you're so, okay, so what's the difference? Why? Why would it be a good fit or not a good fit? It depends on your type of income. It depends on what state you live in. It depends on whether you're married or single. It depends on whether you're in a community property state. It depends on what kind of assets you have. It depends on, the list goes on and on and on, right? So when we look at all these variables, you might want to do bankruptcy, but maybe that doesn't work for you because you have too many assets, right? You might want to do bankruptcy, but maybe it doesn't work because you don't even pass the means test in your state, what the median income is, right? So there's all these different criteria. And unfortunately, there are other alternatives that people choose because of, again, uncertainty and fear, right? If we start researching debt settlement on the internet right now, what do you think we're going to learn? Everybody, it's like you can go on there and be an expert.
All of a sudden.
So the reality now, the average consumer doesn't have the capacity to interpret all that data and then make their decision. Okay, this makes sense. This is the best thing. So the truth is that there's a few industries. For some people, bankruptcy is the last resort, and unfortunately, that's their best bet. But I make sure it's your last resort.
It's your last resort. We got a question here from Miss Shadira Birdshaw. I knew this was going to start coming. It starts with 1. We got 2, but we got 1 right now. What is your take on credit restoration versus debt consolidation? Ooh, I'm gonna learn
So,
something today. Hold on,
so
take off my hat.
great question. First, what I would like to say is that I have a lot of great credit restoration partners that send us clients. So here's the pros and the cons. The pros are you want to have good credit because you want to be able to get the cheapest rates, save money on car insurance. We all know the spiel, right? Um, so that's number one. Number two, the challenge with that industry, it wasn't up until recently very well regulated. It was kind of like wild wild west. Okay, it's going through turnover right now. A lot of regulation. A lot of major companies are getting like squeezed and like getting in trouble for lack of a better term. So there's a lot of regulation happening now. I love credit repair, credit restoration. The challenge is that many of these companies will try to repair you owing money. Think about that. How do you repair owing money? There's no repair, there's no restoration. Okay. Either you are reestablishing credit, you got zero credit and zero debt, and you have to reestablish credit, right? Go get a $500 credit card, get a secured credit card, use, pay off, start doing that. And at some point, you'll establish credit and then get a used car, maybe co sign with a family member. Now you got a car note and then keep going, right? So there's reestablishing credit. But I think what the question is really addressing credit repair, right? Fix my credit. Let me get you into we've all heard this 800 club or 700 club. So here's my philosophy. If you owe money to a creditor, you got no business restoring anything. Your number one priority should be to pay off that debt down to a zero. Whether you cut him a check for 100% of the debt, or you get into a service that allows you to save money on the principal and settle that debt for less, doesn't matter which way you want to do it. But once that balance is zero, then phase two is credit restoration. If you owe money, I mean, look, there is a right approach to sell that deal as well, but it's just backwards and it's not productive. So if you owe 30 grand in collection debt and I try to remove that debt from your credit report, is it possible? Sure. So what did I accomplish? Nothing. I removed it from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Well, what does that mean? I don't owe the money anymore? Of course you owe the money. And there's people out there on TikTok, on Instagram that say things like, do you owe collection debt? Do not pay it. You do not owe that money. Actually, you do owe that money. And you know what? How you're going to learn? You're going to learn the hard way. When they sue you and get a judgment and figure out what state you're in and what type of income you have, whether they're going to garnish your check, whether they're going to levy your bank account, or whether they're going to put a lien on your property. So trust me, you don't want to learn the hard way. And when that happens, you're going to call your friend that has a credit repair company that's in their garage. I promise you, they're not going to take your call. Okay? So let's stop living in La La Land and, address your debt first and then repair away. But that's the challenge is a lot of these folks don't care. They just want to get $500 today because they want to hustle. They want to make money. I get that. But you got to disclose. If you want to get somebody in a temporary boost and say, look, I can get this thing off your credit, but it's probably going to come back once it's sold to another collector, and you understand that they can still sue you, they can still come after you. If you're okay with all that, I can try to get it off so you can get into that next lease or whatever, right? A temporary credit boost. That is like literally the extreme circumstance that I would be okay from an ethical standpoint saying, look, you told the client the risk is there. The client says, I know, I don't care. I just need this right now. And then you try to do that service for them. But ultimately, pay off debt first, whether you settle it or pay it off yourself. And then you can go ahead and delete those things off your credit report.
Oh, thank you. All
I know
right.
it's a mouthful, but
No. Hey, listen, that's why we're on Facebook. You can watch the playback and everybody's entitled to. I mean, this is exactly what you said. There's your opinion. So this is the way you would do it. And I love that.
so Shadira says you owe the money, but the burden of proof is on them to prove that you owe the debt. No, they're just going to sue you. and they got the best and the biggest and the baddest lawyers, and you're going to keep telling them that, and they're going to garnish your wages, and you're going to continue to tell them that. That's not true. There's something called the statute of limitations, and they all know that. Every state is a little different. Now, listen, they might not sue you, but do you want to really play the finance game with just shooting, dice? Like, that's not the way you approach things. There's a methodical process, and if you want to, if you don't plan on making any money, if you're not employed and you don't have any assets and you live under a rock, yeah, sure, okay, fine, they can't take anything from you. But that's not the purpose of this live. We want to talk about how to increase our assets and equities and move forward, right? And really have a good credit rating, not something that's masked. Anyways, hopefully that makes sense.
Well, Mark has a question. Then you guys go back in because I see the back and forth. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Okay, wait, Shadir. Let me get this one. This appears to be an excellent service for individuals facing bankruptcy. Are there others who could also benefit from it?
So it's an alternative to bankruptcy. Yes, it's an excellent alternative to bankruptcy. Um, and look, and I guess that's one of the misconceptions. Sometimes we think that we have to be destitute to get into a service like this, and you don't. I'll give you an example. If you're maxed out on all your credit cards right now, do the budget, list all your debts, secured versus unsecured. Look at your unsecured debt, do your budget, like your household budget, your income and expenses, and figure out how much disposable income you have, and can you pay back 2.5 to 3 times your minimum payment over the next 2 to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. If you can do that without it affecting your ability to live day to day and buy groceries and just pay for your regular living expenses, then you probably don't need the service. But the truth is, most people can't do that. They can't afford to do that. They can't stop using credit, triple their minimum payments. And they're like, well, you don't have to. You can just stop using credit and pay minimum payments. Well, it's going to take you 15 years. So either way, you're going to stop using credit for 15 years. Like, there is no way out without paying some sort of price, right? Of credit or financial discipline or lowering your lifestyle, right? Like, for example, I knew getting married and having kids was going to be expensive. So when I was single, I had a totally different lifestyle. My car payments looked different before, right? But I knew that I need to still be able to pay my bills, save money, and that was important to me. So in order to do that, I had to get rid of one of the cars that was stupid expensive, and then I got something that was a little bit more affordable, and then instead I took that money and I put it into savings and I put it into insurance, right? But again, it was on purpose. It didn't just happen. And people thought I wouldn't do it. They're like, no, there's no way you're going to do it. You're not going to trade in a Maserati for a Camry. Oh, watch me.
changes right? Changes of lifestyle. Shadira went back to the comment and she says she disagree. But then she also says both are great options. So I understand you guys come from two different sides of the world. She's done credit repair for 8 years. You do debt restoration. So that's where this is at. So she said that she's been doing debt restoration for 8 years. She's been doing credit restoration for 8 years. So that's where the comment was from before Mark asked the question where she says she disagreed, but she also does say that both are great options. I mean, that's what we have here is options when it comes to debt, right? So, I mean, hey, keep bringing them on. Keep bringing them on. Keep bringing the questions on. I like this debate. There's a position where you can see what works for what person, at the end of the day. We do have another question, though, which maybe I know does enlighten me as well. What does it mean when a card is charged off?
It just goes to collections. That's all.
That's it. There you go.
They report it as a loss. Now, sometimes debt can be written off. where it's just zero. You don't have to settle it, nothing. In that case, credit restoration is a good option because they're no longer going to pursue that debt. But if it's just charged off, it's going to go to collections. It's going to go to portfolio recovery, to Midland Funding. It's going to go to, a law firm. So, like, again, when we say I disagree, I could show you 1,000 lawsuits that my company is dealing with. So if you're dealing with as many clients as we are, people are getting sued. You can't restore a lawsuit. Like you have, I get it. We can disagree, but you can't disagree with the law, right? Now, if the debt is old and it's past the statute of limitations, then they can no longer sue. In that case, yes, the client is not taking that risk. But again, all I'm saying is the safer path is don't gamble with your credit, with your income, with your assets. Find a way to pay off your debt first if you're within the window of being sued, and then delete these things by disputing or whatever other techniques that some of the companies use. But
That okay. All right. Hey, Shadira, keep pouring it on. Keep pouring it on. If you have a question, I got a situation here. I have a family member who got into a debt settlement, but was almost arrested. She doesn't know the details, but from what I was told, it was because she was not making payments. Is this how your program runs too? Meaning, do your clients stop payments and then let me see? I gotta look on Facebook. Maybe it's more because
so this is not true. And if they got arrested, it's because of something else they did. You can't get arrested for not paying unsecured debt. You can get sued. So I can't answer this question. No, you don't get arrested for being in a debt settlement program. They did something else to break the law, or they did something else they weren't supposed to. So that does not apply to. It's kind of like this. If somebody sues you, if I'm your neighbor and I sue you, I gotta win in court. Like you're not gonna get arrested because you owe money to me, unless you're doing fraud, right? And you're doing something else, like you're evading taxes, or something like really, really, really bad. But yeah, they're not telling you the whole story.
mm, okay. There's a big missing part. She did say there was a missing part because she doesn't know the details. Those details, that's where the truth lies in the details, they say. All
Yeah.
right, let's see. I got some other questions here while people keep thinking of them. Why do you believe avoiding traditional solutions like consolidation, credit counseling, bankruptcy, or settlement can sometimes be in a family's best long term interest?
Why do you think avoiding traditional solutions like consolidation, counseling, bankruptcy, settlement
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes be in a family's best long-term interest? It wouldn't be.
Well, okay.
There's no situation where avoiding traditional solutions to get out of debt and put yourself in a better financial situation that's better for you. It would be worse for your family, short term and long term.
And long term. Okay, okay. Got some good ones here. You had to think about that one as a wordful. What are the first proactive steps a family can take when they realize their debt is growing faster than their ability to pay it down? That's a pretty good
Man,
question, man.
I love this question. So, first thing you got to do is you got to make a budget for your house. One or two incomes. How much? If I asked you how much money do you earn on a monthly basis, do you have any idea how many people don't know?
A lot. I deal with them.
No. What do you mean? Last month, what was it? They don't remember. They don't pay attention. So first thing you got to do is what are your incomes? How many and what? Then all your expenses, and you got to find out what you're paying. How much are you paying for Hulu? How much are you paying for Netflix? How much are you paying for Disney Plus? Do you really need all three if you got a growing debt problem? I don't think so. How much are you paying for your car? Why? Do you need a car to go to work and come back home, or do you need a car to impress your friends? I needed a car to go to Bonds. I go to the airport 3 times a week. and I had a car that was parked collecting dust. Now I told myself a story and I said it's a tax write-off. Sure, Armin. Yeah, sure. But guess what? There's a better way for me to write things off my taxes. I don't need that car payment, right? So find out first what you're making and what you're spending and see what your negative number is. And you know what? People don't know what their negative number is because they put groceries on credit cards and they don't put groceries in their budget.
Mm.
So think about this. Your Time Warner cable bill, your cell phone bill, your groceries is $900 a month. $900 a month. And it's not in your budget. And the reason it's not in your budget, I'm not yours. I'm just saying when people start doing their budgets, they don't put it in their budget because they use credit cards. But then in turn, their credit card bills are $1,400 a month. So what would happen if you stop increasing your credit card bills, cut that $1,400 payment down to $700, and now just paid for your Time Warner bill out of your checking account, paid for your groceries out of your checking account? Does that make sense? Don't buy grocery. Like, you can get DoorDash right now with buy now, pay later.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know why they did this? Because people are running out of credit card debt. They're running out of runway. And I'm not talking about the wealthy. I'm not talking about the 1% to 5%. Because some people that are listening to this, they're like, what are you talking about? I got $100,000 in credit card limits. You do. The rest of America doesn't. The rest of America right now, guys, 12.2% of Americans are delinquent on their credit card debt. You have any idea how gigantic that number is? 10% are delinquent on their student loan debt. Student loan debt doesn't have to sue you. They will garnish your money. They will take your tax returns. It is deadly to your budget. And we haven't even been hit. As of May, they changed the laws. All deferments are gone. All the forbearances are gone. They're saying, get yourself out of default or we're going to take that money. Auto loans is at 5% delinquency rate. The numbers are telling us the whole story. Whatever people are doing is not working. And you know what the sad part is? We're still spending money on credit. Whatever's left, we're still spending it. I use this example. You're at a restaurant, you order 2 steaks, and you know you can't afford to pay for it. And you're like, well, what the hell? I'm already here. I already can't afford it. Let me just get dessert too. That's where we're at. The mindset. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary.
Wow. 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 Oh, this one's going to be long, so I got to read it off of my phone. It says, let me see where I can find it. Replying to a lemnish when a debt consolidator appears on a credit report, does it make the client look irresponsible to creditors as if they are not responsible enough to pay their own bills? Also, what are the reasons for someone to pay? That's the part that gets lost. Hold on. Wow. Okay. Right here. To pay their own bills. Also, would that be the reason someone pay a consolidation company instead of paying their own debt? In other words, why do they pay a debt consolidating company as opposed to paying their own debt?
Okay, so there's a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
The second question is, why would somebody pay a debt consolidation company instead of paying their own debt? Because paying their own debt, they're not getting out of debt. Guys, we're at $1.3 trillion in credit card debt and climbing. 1.3 trillion. We were just at $1 trillion a year and a half ago. Unsecured credit card debt. This isn't payday loans. This isn't personal loans. This isn't buy now, pay later loans. This isn't payday, like just credit card debt. It's not working. Now, the first question here, does it make the client look irresponsible to creditors? What are your needs? You want to look responsible to your creditors, or do you want to get out of debt and stop taking money away from your family and feeding the pockets of big credit card companies interest rates? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to get out of debt? Because if you're carrying a bunch of debt, I got news for you. You already look irresponsible. If you're maxed out, guess what? Bank of America is going to send you a very polite letter saying, hey, we reevaluated our relationship and we decided to lower your credit limit from 15,000 down to 8,000, which is what you owe. Boom, now your utilization is at 99%. Your credit takes a dive. None of that matters. We're asking the wrong questions. How much of your paycheck are you sending to the credit card company and what is it doing for you? Well, Armin, I'm using it for emergencies. Really? How much is your credit card bill? $1,000 a month. Okay, well, if you pay 400 instead of 1,000 using a debt consolidation company, now you got $600 of your own money to do what you got to do. You don't need emergency credit card. You're freeing up your own cash flow, right? It's all mindset and budgeting. And listen, sometimes it's not that simple. But for most people, that's enough to reverse it. How do I know that? I've been doing this for 15 years. I've taken a lot of people from 1,400 to 700. I've taken a lot of people from 1,200 to 800. Right? And guess what happens when they're graduating the program? Their credit is phenomenal. They look very responsible. Their stress levels go down. And then they can go to a reputable credit restoration person. Right? And then now they can work on those accounts that were settled. And no harm, no foul.
How long does it typically take to get from beginning to end of your program?
It depends on your needs. I have clients that their priority is getting out of debt as quickly as possible, but their budget doesn't allow it. You can't have it both ways. So it depends on what the client's needs are and then what their financial circumstances are. And we tailor that based on each individual client's needs. I have people that get into a 1-year program because they can afford it. I had a client that was at the airport, $320,000 in credit card debt, paying about 12 grand a month in minimum payments, business debt. And you know what he told me? He said, I'm not trying to lower my 12,000 to 6,000 a month. I want to pay off this thing as fast as possible. Tailor me a program that puts me right around the same payment I'm paying now, but make it as short as possible.
Again, so what you basically do is you make sure that they pay the less. So somehow you fight the interest rate. I'm assuming that's
we wipe out interest. Yeah, that's correct. We wipe out interest entirely, and then we settle the actual principal as well. So they save some money on the principal, but most of the savings come from interest.
Okay, all right, man. Guys, if just for a short second, if any of you want to know more information and you want your family needs help with this kind of situation, there's a free consultation barcode right here. There's also a link in my chat. Feel free to scan that barcode on the playback if you have to. And also feel free to go to the comment section. Link is there. Link is in the bio, as they say. So we're gonna keep this conversation going. You still got 10 minutes for me, Armand? You got 10 minutes?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. I gotta take this man's thing. So time. So let's jump down to this question right here. How important is budgeting, since you've been talking about it so much, in preventing debt? Basically debt, and what are some of the simple budgeting methods that you would recommend?
So I'll tell you what I do. So we all have Google, right? And we all have Google Sheets. So what I do is I keep a monthly budget. So like my Google Excel on the online version, not local, like on the cloud. So I have my Excel, and on there I have all my major expenses, my housing, my insurance, my car payments, my dog's insurance, my cell phone bill, my gas, my electric, my my internet, my American Express cards, right? Those payments are hefty. Why? Remember we talked about those points, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta keep an eye on that. My dog's grooming, my landscaping. I mean, I'm talking about everything we spend money on: groceries, recreational stuff, birthdays, gifts. If there's cash coming out of the bank account, I want to know why.
Where's it
Well,
going?
because I need to know. I need to know. And at the end of the month, I got my math. How much money came in, what my expenses were for the month of August, are daycare, that's expensive, right? So like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm gonna figure out how much money I can save that month. And there are months where I'm negative, but that happens rarely. And that so the point is this: you have to you can't have it in the back of your mind and say, yeah, it's a good idea. I'll get no. You need to take the time. At the end of the day, you gotta do this. Right now, my goal is to save up a certain amount of money. You know, you live in California, you need a nice down payment to buy a house. So that's my goal. Guess what? I can't get to that goal unless I'm saving a certain amount of money every single month. Sure, I'm going to increase my income, but for most people, income is not their problem. There's plenty of people that make good money, but they're finding ways to spend everything.
Yeah, yeah,
So
just miscellaneous things take over. Sometimes you're not thinking, and you go outside your budget. It just, I see that. You know, Coach has a good
live,
question for you. Coach has a good question. I'm gonna let you finish that thought. But you said before, people are asking the wrong questions. You know, we go through that, especially when we're in my field, and a lot of times even with mentorship, we want to ask a question. We're getting the answer to the question we're asking, but we're not asking the right question. So coach asks, what are the right questions? What should they be asking? What should people be asking, especially when it comes to this whole restoration credit and all this good stuff? When it comes to debt, what should they be asking?
what should we be asking? Um, I mean, look, if you're carrying debt, revolving credit card debt, the first question you got to ask is, how long have I had this debt?
Mm,
That's the first question. And and then we all got a calculator, right? So we're gonna say, okay, but I'm okay. It's not that painful. It's not the end of the world. Okay, I got $30,000 worth of debt. So what? All right, so 3% is $900 payment. How long have I carried this 30 grand? 3 years. Okay, well, multiply that by 12. That's $10,800 a year you've paid in payments. Multiply that by 3 years, 36 months. So that's $32,400 that you have paid on this debt. And you still have this debt. How does that make you feel? Are you okay with that?
mm.
I'm not. That will keep you up late at night. Oh, you only live once. Okay, then don't complain when you're broke. Somebody said you gotta be financially disciplined. Yes, you have to be, right? Do you have to eat out? So I love to cook. I love to do all the boring stuff, right? So guess what? When we had COVID and we couldn't go out and eat at restaurants, it didn't bother me, but I knew that I was actually going to save money. I enjoy it, right? So, but for most people, they don't even look at it that way. For most people, they just let it run away from them. They got a credit card connected to DoorDash. They don't even know what the balance is. They just order. Amazon credit cards connected. They just order. Click. How easy do they make it? Click, 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 click. Next thing you know, you spend an extra $1,100. I thought about buying a cell phone last month. Why? Well, the chips are going to be this, price of phones is going to go up. Maybe I should get a new phone. Well, I bought my phone about a year and a half ago. It's perfectly fine. So I had to look at it logically and I say, Armin, do you need a new phone? Uh-uh. I don't need to spend $1,100 right now. Does that make sense? Like,
Mm-hmm.
those are the types of things we got to be able to do. Otherwise, what is that song? You're going to be like a plastic bag floating through the wind, right? Like, aimlessly. So you gotta anchor down a little bit.
Oh man, this is good, man. So people have cash flow problems. Yeah, I see that. So there you go. I hope that answered your questions. We got time for like two or three more questions from the audience. I got some questions here just in case because I do have some.
So I want to say something, and whoever watches this video, right? So
Please open.
we And I said this earlier in a video for those that joined a little bit later. So we realize that debt settlement is not for everybody, right? We know that. Bankruptcy is not for everybody. You know, refinancing your home and pulling money out of your equity to pay off credit card debt is not for everybody, even though I wouldn't recommend it. There's a lot of other things out there that we don't even touch on. And for example, there's companies that do something called debt validation, where people sign up and these companies aren't even trying to settle their debt or pay off their debt. They're trying to just dispute the validity of the debt. Their success rate is horrendous. These people end up getting sued. All their money goes to fees. It's not a good situation. We end up cleaning up the mess afterwards many times, and sometimes it's too late, and those people end up in bankruptcy because we can't even help. They're at that point. But here's my point: be careful who you take advice from. Like, you don't have to believe me, right? You don't have to believe me, but our industry is actually a legitimate industry. Like, there's a couple of hundred companies that do what we do. Like, we're not experimenting anymore, right? So there's it's a major contributing factor to the economy, taxes, employment. I mean, it's a pretty big industry. And 10 years ago, nobody knew what the heck that settlement was. So my point is this: when in today's day and age, when you go online and you start to do research, you just got to be smart with that. Don't listen to every little pop-up you see, because everybody wants your attention. Counseling company is going to tell you only wave the counseling flag. Debt settlement company is going to say only debt settlement. Bankruptcy lawyer is going to say screw the other two guys, only bankruptcy. My point is this: we have values as an organization. So our first shared value is always do what's in the best interest of the client, and that instills that consultation. And our agents, our analysts are trained to go through all the options with the client. And guess what? Sometimes we learn together with the client that our program is not a good fit for them. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Don't, you know, be skeptical, but also, you know, be open-minded and to at least educate yourself. You don't have to believe everything you see, but at least look at your options. And you know, if your neighbor that's giving you debt advice has got 40 grand in credit card debt, like, obviously maybe not the source you should be listening to.
Good point. Good point. Good point. Well, you know what? I think that's a great spot right there. That's a good thing, guys. Once again, if you want to know more, if this is the right fit, like Armand said, this is something that people that his company will tell you if you're a good fit. Obviously, they've rejected people. In other words, they're not just going to preach what they do as the only solution. But if you want to know and you want to get a free consultation, feel free to share this with other people. It's also in the comment section as a link. Feel free to find out if this is a fit for you. Armand, I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you sincerely for taking the time, especially being in a whole different time zone, coming on here. And I usually ask, are you willing to do a part two?
Let's do it. I love the
All right.
question.
I think I'm just going to put it out there, okay? I think you started a little something, stirring a little something between credit repair and consolidation. I think I'm going to get a credit repair person up here. We're going to have a little debate. Hey, we could agree to disagree. Just some, some
Yeah,
sparring.
yeah. Let's get some infinite banking people on.
Oh, infinite banking people. Oh,
Yeah.
God, Lee, where are we going with this? Oh, no. This might become a financial showdown, guys. We're trying to do a Royal Rumble. Listen, it's like you said something that's very important. Not every shoe fits every foot. So at the end of the day, it's all situational. And I do agree that it would be good to have a panel of different people that do different things, because infinite banking, life insurance, tax-free retirement, annuities, all this is in the same ball field, but not everything's for everybody. Sometimes you got to go through the steps to get to the last one. So at the end of the day, I would love to have a panel of people that are in all different aspects of the financial industry, because guess what? A man with 2 masters and 3 bachelors did not learn any of this stuff that you're teaching right now. And guess what? This is the stuff that makes the world go round. You understand what I'm saying? These are real. Money is in every language. Money is every language. If you don't, you can learn everything in school, but if you don't know money, you're still dumb. So I really feel that is a kind of situation where I would love to have people that talk about different aspects of money, making money work for you. Now you work for money. And then also debt, man, debt is important. You've made a whole living on this. Guys, if you want to follow Armand and know more about what he's doing, please hit this right here. It'll take you straight to his Instagram, correct?
Yep.
He has
Yep.
a lot of content there for you to watch. Shameless plug right there for you. Armand's gonna let you know what's going on from his side of the table, and that way you can learn more. I want to thank you guys. And again, before I go, if you want to know if you qualify for the plan that he's doing, hit this QR code or the link that's in the chat. Again, I want to thank you, man. I am going to set something up, Armand. Keep your phone. Don't block me. If you block me, I'm going to put you on blast. Don't block me. You got any final words? You got any final words for the people?
No, I just like to thank everybody that tuned in. I know that a lot more people are going to watch. But, you know, the enemy is out there. It's debt, it's interest, it's cost of living, it's inflation. And the reality is that we got to stop waiting for somebody to fix our problems. Let's start
No
taking the
one's coming to
steps.
save you. Say it. No one's coming to save you.
So start taking independent steps, equip yourself, educate yourself, get yourself a budget. Next month, know exactly how much money you make. Next month, know exactly how much money you spend. Figure out what your cash flow is. Figure out how much you're paying on your debt. And ask yourself, am I comfortable? If I keep doing this over the next 5 years, where am I going to be? The numbers don't lie, guys. So that's all I got for you guys. Appreciate you, brother.
People, women lie, men lie, but numbers don't. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been another great educational episode of the Unapologetic Entrepreneur. Tune in next week, guys. Scan this barcode if you and like, share right here if you want to subscribe, guys. This is a great platform for this type of conversation. Thank you for spending your time with me. I'm glad that you spend it with me because that's the only thing I can give you back at the end of the day. It's been an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to be with you today. Be blessed.